Welcome to a new episode of our online TEFL course. Today we're tackling grammar translation method. Grammar translation method was also called the classical method, and it was used to help the students in reading comprehension text in the foreign culture or from the different languages, and it was mainly focusing on reading and writing and the grammar of the target language. When we say the target language here, we're talking about the language that the students are going to learn, and the native language is their own language. For example, my native language is Arabic, so the target language that I could be learning is English. Since the students here are more focusing on reading and writing and the grammar of the language and learning new vocabulary, then here the use of the native language could be important to help the students to become capable of translating from one language to another. The students of the target language here are learning the grammar and the form of the language explicitly and deductively. Deductively means that they are taking the rule first, and then they are given examples on this rule, and they are trying to memorize these examples so that they can learn to make new similar examples like them. Since the students here are learning reading, writing and grammar and vocabulary because of translation, so in this case they could be learning vocabulary equivalent, like for example, I want to know the meaning of this word in English and its equivalent in Arabic so that I could be able to translate from one to another. So that was a theoretical background for grammar translation method. Now let's take some of the techniques that you can use to apply in your own classroom. The first technique that we have is translation. So you might be actually helping the students to translate from one language to another by giving them different reading passages. And these reading passages could be, like a novel or a story, or something related to the target language culture, like it could be an English novel. So this way they would be learning English and they would be learning about the culture of Americans or British people who are using English. You can also make use of this is that you can choose a reading passage or a novel that could be covering the same vocabulary and the same grammar that you were teaching in this lesson. But let's, think of something here. If you are going to use the native language in your classroom, in our case here you could be using Arabic while you are teaching English. So you have to make sure that the students will be able to stop using Arabic when you tell them to stop, because in some classes you might find the students, like they found the native language being used, they would be reluctant to stop using it when you ask them, and they would not start using the target language, which is English here, because you might be, they might be scared. They want the native language, they want their mother tongue to be used so that they would feel safe and they would stay in their comfort zone. So you have to make sure that if this technique might not be appropriate in your class with your students, then try to avoid it. We will also be talking about how to help your students stop using the native language or the mother tongue inside the classroom and start using the target language. And we're going to be tackling this in other videos. Another technique that we can use is fill in the blanks. Well, this is very simple because you need to give them different sentences with a slot in the middle, and you ask them to fill it with a certain word or a certain word that is matching the grammar of the sentence. For example, if I said, I am dots video now. So this could be, I am watching a video now. In this way, the students would be trying to get the best possible word that could be used in this sentence while keeping its grammar correct. The third technique is a very simple technique that you could be using right now in your class, which is using words in a sentence. For example, if you're teaching them the word learn, after you teach them the definition, what is the meaning of this word, how do we pronounce it, and you give them different examples on how to use the word learn, what you need to do is to ask them to put the word learn in a sentence. So they can be saying like, I'm learning English now, I don't like to learn languages, I learn swimming, and they will give you different sentences to show you that they do understand the meaning of this word and they are capable of using it in a correct context. Technique number 4 is using synonyms and antonyms. Well, first, what is the meaning of synonym? It's like the words that are similar to each other. For example, if we said the words little and small, they are synonyms. And antonyms, the words that are opposite to each other. For example, if we said the word light, their antonyms would be dark, so light and dark, or light and heavy. So you can ask your students to have, you're going to give them a set of words and they will be giving you their synonyms and antonyms. And in this case, it would be very nice of you to help your students become autonomous learners and teach them how to use a thesaurus. A thesaurus is something similar to a dictionary, but it gives you, the words that are similar to each other grouped together. Technique number 5 is reading comprehension questions. Well, in this technique, you're going to give your students a story, a reading passage, a novel, and you're going to ask them 3 different sets of questions. The first set, that would be like just to check in their understanding of the reading passage. You can just, to make sure that they got it or not, they understand it or not. And so the answers of the students in this set of questions will be either correct or incorrect, because you can find the answers from the text. With the second set of questions here, it would be trying to make the students, make inferences. They are trying to form an opinion or trying to understand something that is not clearly stated in the comprehension text. So in this case, they might be guessing something is true or not from the words that are used by the character or by the writer of the text. The third set of questions will be helping the students relate the text to their lives, to their experience, how they feel about it. So we sort of have like the first set of questions is just checking comprehension and receptive reading skills. The second set of questions would be asking the students to think critically of the passage, and the third set of questions would be asking them to relate the reading to themselves, to their lives, to the people they know, and also to think creatively. For example, if you're teaching the students the story of Red Riding Hood, you might be applying this technique on it. For example, you will be using the first set of questions that will be assessing only the receptive reading skills. You want to know if the students understand, they are capable of comprehending the text or not. So you can ask them, what happened to Red Riding Hood? Did the wolf eat her grandma? Did the wolf eat her? So if they told you, yes, he did, or no, he didn't. So in this case, you will be able to know from the text if it is correct or not. Then you're going to use the second set of questions, which will be assessing the critical reading skills, if the students are capable of thinking of the text critically or not. You can ask them, so what do you think of Red Riding Hood's character, or what do you think of the wolf's character? Do you think he's a good wolf or a bad wolf? And you will ask them why and why not. So this way, you cannot find a correct answer in the text, but you will be helping the students to think critically. And remember something, when we're talking about critical and creative thinking, we're not thinking of it as correct or incorrect. You need to give your students the space to think on their own and not to block them if they say something that is not, orthodox or traditional to everyone else. After that, you can push the students a little bit further and you can ask them creative reading questions. You know, you can ask them, so if you were the wolf, what would you do? Or if you were asked to write the story from the opinion of the wolf, how would you write it? Or if you can change the ending of the story, what would you do? And do you know anyone who is like Red Riding Hood or who is like the wolf? And what do you think of this? All of these questions will help the students to think creatively. See, we're not just teaching English as just grammar and vocabulary anymore. We're trying to teach the students the language itself, not about the language. And we are also trying to teach them how to think, because it's, you know, part of the 21st century skills is that you help the students think creatively and critically, and you know, they would be using this language in a context, not just you know, like grammar and that's it, but no, they would use it to communicate their ideas to the world, and they can communicate together. And today we covered the grammar translation method. We talked about its theoretical background, and we talked about the different techniques that we can use to apply this method in our classroom. It would be great if you can share with us how you apply the reading comprehension technique in your class, and you tell us how it goes and if things were you know, as you expected or not. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, and if you have any questions, any feedback, it would be great if you can send it to us in any way that you like. Thank you so much for watching us, and wait for our coming video.